NBA draft's a week from today, by the way.
Kind of a big deal.
1 week from today. Zion going to get traded?
He might.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, Zion, legit might get traded. It's crazy to think that a former number 1 overall pick, when he plays and he's healthy.
He's like 22.
Yeah, he's going on his age 23 season. I think he actually just turned 23. But nonetheless, when he plays, this guy's averaging like 25, 26 points a game.
Key is when.
When he plays. It's not often that you take a guy who is considered a generational talent that has that level of production when he does play, and you're willing to move him. And it seems like by all indications right now that the New Orleans Pelicans, who picked 14th, are willing and open to listen to conversations, or willing to have conversations and listen to offers for Zion. That, to me, is mind-blowing.
I think what concerns me about Zion, starting to feel a little bit Ben Simmons-ish.
Oh.
I'm going to say that. I'm going to back away from
you're
the mic
saying,
for a second.
no. Okay, hold on.
But it is.
Okay.
Now, when he was at Duke, he seemed like a guy that loved the game.
Oh, yeah.
You think
I
back
still think he does.
to after he got, he hurt his knee a little bit, and people wanted him to sit out the NCAA tournament. That was a big topic. And there were people that advocated for him to sit out. There's always the people like, oh, don't risk it, get your money, like the people that forget like the idea of loving the game.
Yeah, they like, oh, this is actually what I do, which is play.
But since he's been in the league, the question, at first, you get a foot injury, okay. You get a knee injury, okay. But this season, it was a hamstring.
Yeah.
And even his own Pelicans VP of B-ball operations, David Griffin, said, this was a quote to ESPN, I wish I could immediately pinpoint the answer. I think a big part of it is on him. I think there's a lot he can do better, and he would, I think, tell you that. And Zion even said when he did a press conference not too long ago towards the end of the season about his health, was saying, I need to feel like Zion.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? We're comparing this, it's not quite fair, to hockey where you've got guys like Kachuk going out there with a broken sternum.
Legit.
And you've got a healed hamstring, and you're not playing on a team in the New Orleans Pelicans. This was a wide open year. The Pelicans are a talented team.
Yeah.
And you throw him into the mix, they could win an NBA title, and he's not playing. So I don't love calling out a guy's will to play the game, but all I have is the evidence I can go on right now, and then you throw in this off-court controversy he has.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a different – well, we can dive into that in just a little bit. But you talk about it with New Orleans that when healthy, were you talking about a healthy Brandon Ingram averaging 23-plus points a game? You talk about a healthy Zion Williamson averaging 26, 27 points per game.
CJ
McCollum, throw that into the mix as well. I know they traded guys like Drew Holiday away. But you look at that roster top to bottom, you're like, this is as good as it gets in the Western Conference. But Brandon Ingram dealing with his injuries, especially during his time in New Orleans, he only played 45 games this past season. Zion only played 29 games. Now, healing from that hamstring injury, okay, feeling like Zion, is that in terms of feeling fit to play? Or is that mentally between the ears feeling like Zion, like having that swagger and all that kind of stuff that we've seen from him, and just that energy that he plays with, because it's truly charismatic to watch him play, or he truly is charismatic when you see him out there on the floor, and the energy in which he plays is phenomenal. Maybe it's just he doesn't like it in New Orleans. Now, he did sign that 5-year, $194 million contract extension, that rookie max extension with the New Orleans Pelicans this offseason. So he does have 5 years on his contract coming up. Maybe he just needs a change of scenery. And that's okay. Sometimes people need that. Sometimes people are like, you know what? It's just not working out here. Not that you're doing anything wrong or I'm doing anything wrong or there's something specific bad that we hate about each other, but it's just not working out. That's okay.
There's not a lot of evidence, though, that it would work out if he came to Charlotte. And that would just be so
True.
Charlotte, right? Like this team that's been
Very
cursed.
true.
One of the worst run organizations in the NBA. I'm sorry, Michael Jordan, but it's a fact.
Well,
they would make this trade. Scoot Henderson becomes a superstar, and Zion continues to fizzle, out and deal with the same things. There's something that people like to say. People show you who they are, and through Zion's start to the NBA career, I think we've kind of seen who he is.
Can that change?
It certainly could. Like we mentioned, he's 23, and as Blink-182 once said, nobody likes you when you're 23.
That's true. They did say that.
But I also wonder, sometimes we project what we would do if we were these athletes in these situations. when in reality, maybe they don't view it the same way we do. Not everybody is wired that way. We like to think if we had that talent, we would do whatever we could.
Oh, yes.
To win, compete, to do what we could. But we also don't know what it's like to quote Notorious B.I.G. here, more money, more problems.
Yeah.
There's a lot that comes with the lifestyle. As we've seen, Zion is handling it. And he's learning, and he's young. So he's learning how to be a pro with his body in more ways than one, as we are learning through social media. So, again, there's room to grow up here. But it's a big trade. And what you are getting, I guess, is
learning to be a pro in his body more ways than one. Go on.
When you make this trade, you're dealing with a former number 1 pick that when he plays is elite, is potentially a top 5 to 10 player in the league. I mean, versus the unknown of a Scoot Henderson, who hasn't even played college basketball. No. This guy is in the G League. He's a guard. The world gives us a lot of guards.
They do.
They are very replaceable. So to take a guard that high, you better know. And if you're going to trade that kind of pick, you better know. So it's drama, and the NBA certainly gives us that, and so is Zion.
The NBA is built for a soap opera right now. But yeah, are you trading for the quote-unquote generational talent that's averaged in his NBA career a shade under 26 points and 7 rebounds a game, and also shoots 60+% from the field? And just again, could you imagine just on the floor, just the mellow ball driving into the lane and off-ball movement from Zion Williamson, and the two of them working together, or even his passing ability from inside the paint as well. There's so many different things that Zion can do. I mean, Zion, this past season in the 29 games he played, averaged 4.6 assists per game. Like, for a post player, that's a lot. I mean, obviously it's not Nikola Jokic, but that guy's a unicorn.
That's what I was just going to say. Look who won the title.
Yeah.
There's an analogy there, and I agree with you.
Passing big.
Yeah.
Like, that kind of stuff does matter. So, but yeah, and then you also add in the fact that they still have guys like P.J. Washington. They still have guys like Mark Williams that they drafted from Duke a couple years ago, and also potentially Miles Bridges coming back. So there's a lot of pieces that they could work around with. Are you willing to trade the second pick for that, or are you willing to go for Scoot Henderson or Brandon Miller? Brandon Miller is that prototypical NBA wing, right? 6'8", 6'9", large wingspan, can shoot from outside.
They don't make a lot of those.
They don't make a lot of those. So that's the question. It's like, what is more valuable to you, the second overall pick? Again, the caveat of this is New Orleans willing to make that trade? Because apparently New Orleans loves Scoot Henderson. If you want to guarantee that you get him, you got to go to number 2. All right, you have to go to number 2, because if he goes to if they try and trade to number 3, which is where the Portland Trailblazers are sitting right now, you try to go up to 3. Well, that doesn't guarantee that Scoot Henderson's going to be there at 3, because another team could try and trade up to number 2 with New Orleans to get Scoot Henderson, or the Hornets could take him themselves. So there's a lot of different options out there. The only way you can guarantee to get Scoot Henderson or Brandon Miller is to trade up to Charlotte at number 2. Now, if you're trading pick 14 like the Pelicans are, okay, if you're willing to give up either Brandon Ingram or Zion, what also do you get in return?
Right.
Okay, you get the second overall pick, but you also have to take on Gordon Hayward's contract. So there are a lot of different things that they have to figure out. And what's more valuable to you as a number 2 pick? What do you think is going to be better for you the next 5 years? Is the next 5 years of the contract of Zion Williamson? Or is it going to be the next 5 years of Scoot Henderson? Or the next 5 years of Brandon Miller? What do you think in the long term during those 5 years is going to give you the best value for that number 2 pick?
And it would just be so Charlotte for this thing to work out. I mean, you get the guy that played in state, that's from South Carolina, and with Charlotte that has a history of just kind of drafting the most notable players for March Madness. Like dating back to like Frank Kaminsky, it was like they were doing the scouting report. Kemba Walker. No,
Kemba Walker actually was fantastic.
He was
as a point guard.
Yeah, but that kind of speaks to the risk of drafting small, explosive guards. That once the knee goes, everything goes. And Scoot Henderson is a kind of a violent player in the way he cuts. But everybody seems to love the guy. So, gosh, I just don't know.